I've been asked to say a few words about my new book, Emily Dickinson, A Medicine Woman for Our Times. I'm very excited about this new book. It is 23 years in the making. I began it in 1995, and I'm just so pleased that it's published and out in the world now. It was published on March 21st, and we're a day after the spring equinox, so the timing couldn't be better. It was Emily Dickinson's favorite time of the year. Emily Dickinson, more than any other poet in the 19th century, formed an integration between science and spirituality that really is a tribute to her scintillating brilliance. She had the ability to make words come alive. Even on a day like this, it's Easter morning, there is a poem that speaks to this. Love, she says, love is the fellow of the resurrection, scooping up the dust and chanting, live. So you get a feeling for how alive she is, how playful. Emily Dickinson studied as a young woman at Mount Holyoke Female Seminary at the precise moment in time of the first Seneca Falls Women's Rights Convention in 1848 in New York. So that puts her in a historical time when women were just beginning to find their sense of power. And nobody, I think, in the 19th century, no female poet, embodies this sense of empowerment as much as Dickinson does in her verses. She told her sister-in-law, who lived next door, Susan Gilbert, for instance, cherish power, dear. This, therefore, is a feminist book. It speaks up for the divine feminine, also the divine feminine in men. Feeling is so profound in Dickinson's poetry that it puts her in a class of her own, because she's able to not only give voice to this archetype of the medicine woman within women, but she has a capacity to activate in men the anima aspect of a man's personality, and help a man get in touch with his feeling self. This is very much one of the gifts that she gives us, and which I hope I've managed to bring forward in my book. When I speak of the medicine woman archetype, I'm talking about an archetype of healing within all humans. It's through access to this archetype that Dickinson is enabled to give voice to a democracy of equality that I think the world needs right now. She's very contemporary. She was 160 years ahead of her time. I think this is really a moment, a historical moment, for Emily Dickinson to help us all get in touch with equal rights for all people, because she really spoke to this very important subject of finding one's own voice, one's vocation, and being true to that, even if it meant going one's own way, as she did, in a patriarchal society that was oppressing women's voices. She stayed true to herself. She had the moral courage and the strength to endure and to seek out those helpers who enabled her to assemble her poems and preserve them so that they would be published posthumously after her death. She is what I think is from a Jungian analytical standpoint, a woman who stays true to the feminine self, the feminine selfhood. She did not sacrifice her femininity in a male-dominated world. She did not give up her sense of style, personal style. She stayed true to it. And we have the historians of literature and poetry to thank for having preserved the integrity of Dickinson's lines just the way she intended them. So I'm very happy this book is out, and let me just end with another poem. This is a little longer, but it gives a flavor for what I think Dickinson really wants to convey to all of us, and that's this sense of experience. She wants us to really have experiences of what she herself felt at a very deep, instinctual and archetypal level, and that's this sense of something numinous. She called it ecstasy, to use an emotional term, a metaphor. 1885, she wrote this beautiful poem and sent it to her friend Helen Hunt Jackson, who was in Santa Monica, California. "Take all away from me," she said, "but leave me ecstasy, and I am richer than all my fellow men. Ill it becometh me to dwell so wealthily, when at my very door are those possessing more of abject poverty."